Hello, my name is Tyler Mead, and I'm a Master's Piano Performance major at Syracuse University, as well as a graduate of Westchester University of Pennsylvania in piano performance and music education. I'm also an alumni of Avon Grove High School, class of 2014. I was asked to give a lecture presentation on a topic related to choir, and I chose how to be a proactive learner in the choral ensemble in order to promote a more purposeful and meaningful choral experience. In order for you to have a more purposeful and meaningful choral experience, you have to be proactive in your own learning. The director's job is to teach you new things, and it is your job to take skills and techniques being taught to you and apply them to your own performance in the classroom. And remember, this isn't like math class where you are in control of how you individually perform. Choir is an ensemble, and if you are not doing your share to be proactive in how you learn new music, the entire ensemble will be affected. The purpose of this presentation is to give you tools that you can think about and use as you begin learning new music in the choir classroom. While this is not an exhaustive list by any means, these are very important skills to begin to develop. Skills that we will talk about, proactive skills, include reading the score, analyzing the text, finding patterns, writing in your score, memorizing as you go, asking questions in rehearsal, and being active in your listening. Let's start with reading the score. There's more to read than just your part in a choir piece. By knowing all the parts of the score, you can have a more successful rehearsal because less time is being spent with your conductor telling you what to do. What are some questions that might prompt you in this discussion? What are the other markings in the score? Are there dynamics, articulations, tempo markings that change throughout? You need to be aware of those so that when you encounter them, your director's not telling you or having to guide you through every tiny little detail. Be proactive and see those things. And if you have questions, ask about them so you can better perform them on your own without being told to. What is the contour of the line? When I'm talking about the contour of the vocal line, I'm meaning, does it generally go up or down, or where is your line going to? Reading that will help you read your part better so that less time is being spent going over individual parts. Where are the challenging parts? If you identify where you might have issues, you can be more attentive to those issues when you get there. Are you singing with others? Are you saying the same thing? Are you singing different things? Are you singing the same text but different notes, etc., etc.? How are you going to find your starting pitch in the middle of it? If you have 8 measures of rest, how are you going to find what note to come in on? Likely, there's some other section or the piano part that has your note in it that you're going to want to listen for so that you can come in on the right pitch. Analyzing the text. If you take the time to analyze what the text means, you can explore different ways to make the text more meaningful to you. Once you make the text mean more to you, you can explore how to make the text more clear to the audience and enhance the performing experience for you and the audience. In essence, exploring what the text means gives the audience a more meaningful performance. Questions to ask. What does the text mean? And this doesn't have to be a unified understanding of what the text means, but give the text meaning for you so that you're able to engage more with what you're singing, giving the audience a more meaningful experience when it's performed to them. Take time to speak the text. This will allow you to look at the text and decide what words should be emphasized and how you might emphasize them. What words need more consonant energy? What words need more care? Are you saying every word correctly? And be brutally honest with yourself, because that's the only way that the entire ensemble can create a unified sense of the text. Finding patterns. There are patterns in just about every piece. Identifying these patterns can only help the learning process of the piece. Link things to what you already know. That is one of the most important steps for processing and understanding new material in music and in other subjects too. You can look at a piece of music and ask, how many times does this tonal rhythmic figure come back? Is there this unified sense throughout the piece that comes back and you sing multiple times? Latch onto that. That's a pattern that will help guide the learning process forward instead of struggling over every single repetition. Are there multiple sections? Do they repeat? This will help your understanding of how the piece is organized better so that you can spend less time and energy memorizing it later, as well as linking past sections to sections that are repeating that same type of material. Look at other voice parts as well. This goes back to score reading. You need to identify different parts that other voice parts are singing. So if the sopranos are singing this melody, look to see if you have that melody too. And if you do, link those two together. Are there textual patterns? Is there repeated text? And then you have to ask yourself, what does the repetition of the text mean? This will give a better understanding of how you might perform the music and the text. Not just, I need to get all these notes and all this text right. How are you going to make the text and make the music musical instead of just singing what's on the page? Writing in your score. Just do it. Unless your memory is perfect. Mine isn't. Write in your score. Make markings that remind you of what mistakes you need to fix and help remind you how to fix them. If you sang the wrong interval, don't just circle it. Write the solfege in. If you need more direction to your phrase, drawing an arrow is good, but making fast, swirly lines help to show the spinning needed to create the direction in the phrase. If you pronounce something wrong, write in something that will help you remember how it is pronounced. There is nothing more frustrating than getting jubilate, jubilate, jubilate instead of jubilate. Write something in that will help you remember how it is pronounced so you don't make the same mistakes every single time. If you are out of tune, write a directional arrow, up or down. If you're flat, write an up arrow. If you're sharp, write a down arrow. Or write something brief that is more specific to the note being out of tune, such as, my support is off, write in support. Or my vowel needs to be more pure, write tall vowel, more space, etc., etc. And please mark the breaths. Breathing is the most important concept in order to create a unified sound in the choir ensemble. So mark your breaths so you can breathe where you're supposed to breathe and create a better performance. Memorize as you go. One of the most daunting things in choir is having to memorize music. My prior point about connecting what you know to something new will help with this. If you can find the patterns and practice memorizing how sections relate and where the patterns are, you will find it much easier to memorize music faster. This will definitely cause less stress for you and your director near the concert time. A few things that might help with that. Mark in your music where the patterns repeat. Use rehearsal repetitions to practice memorizing a part. Make it a goal to memorize this section. Try to memorize just the text by speaking or writing it. These techniques will help guide you to the practice of memorizing music. And you can only memorize faster and more efficiently and effectively if you practice memorizing as you go. Asking questions in rehearsal. When I say ask questions in rehearsal, I mean ask purposeful questions in rehearsal. Your peers and your director do not want to have their time wasted with questions asked because you weren't paying attention. Where are we starting again? No. Don't ask questions about other people's mistakes either. Be specific, and if you have a question about what you hear, phrase it in a way that is more constructive to the entire ensemble or yourself instead of blaming it on other people. A couple good questions to ask are, where do you want the breath in this phrase? Where do you want the center of the phrase? Where do you want us to go to during this phrase? Are we supposed to be saying jubilate Deo or jubilate Deo? I'm hearing myself wanting to still sing this out of tune. How can I make this hard spot more supported so it makes it easier? Can we run over this part again so I can make sure I have a good sense of what this is supposed to feel/sound like? These questions are more broad in the sense that many people in the choir also have those questions, but they might not know they have those questions until you ask them. So ask them in a way that's more supportive to the entire ensemble and not blaming things on other people. Being active in your listening. This is a big one. The challenge while learning a new piece, or when you have been working on a new piece for so long, is that you aren't as engaged to listening around you because you either are bored or trying to figure things out for yourself. It's easy to start out just listening to what you're doing in your own part. It's easy to get bored after rehearsing the same piece for 4 weeks straight. But stay engaged in the process and listen to the ensemble, not just yourself. Listen for patterns that you have identified, not just in your part, but in other parts. How you trade back and forth these patterns is part of the music and gives the ensemble this sort of energy and communication throughout. Listen for the pitch that would give you your starting pitch for the next section. I talked about this in the reading the score part. You have to identify these things and be actively listening for these things in order to come in on the right pitch and be more successful as a choir. Listen to those around you for balance. Listen for if you are actually singing pitches and vowels precisely. And ask yourself, is my part the most important right now? Am I singing too loud? Can I hear what is important? If you can't hear what is important, then you have to back off until you can hear that. Can I hear every part? If you can only hear the bass part and you're a bass, you're singing too loud, and trying to actively listen for the other parts so that the balance is more successful in the ensemble. And are my vowels matching the person on the other side of the choir? Fixing your own mistakes. Yes, at the surface, the director's job is to fix your mistakes. But when those mistakes are still pitches and rhythms after 4 weeks of rehearsing the same piece, the job is much less enjoyable and the use of rehearsal time is not being used effectively. If you are able to listen and fix your own mistakes, then the director is better able to help guide you to make the best music that you can. By reading the entire score, analyzing the text, finding patterns, writing in your score, memorizing as you go, asking purposeful questions in rehearsal, and being active in your listening, you will have every tool that you need in order for you to fix your own mistakes, leading to a more purposeful and meaningful choral experience. If you have any other further questions or comments about how to be a proactive learner in the choral classroom, please reach out to me through my email, tcmusic.tyler@gmail.com.